Thought it was time to video the shop and update. There's a few things being added. Still total chaos in many instances and lots of sorting out to do. But this is just a walk around, just to show what's what. This is a very old sort of frame with fire bricks in it. It's a sort of kiln. It's good for heat treatment. Sometimes it's covered in various other things, but when exposed it's quite useful. This, believe it or not, is a welding bench covered in far too much stuff, and underneath's 225 amp arc welder, which does a pretty good job. Moving on from there, a very old pillar grinder, extremely old. It's got a little water pot there for cooling work, which is useful, and it's running on British voltage off an auto transformer. Still does quite a good job. It's got one or two attachments that I made. Then my dear old anvil, which has a chunk missing. Again, it's got a flat surface, which means things get parked on it. Now moving on from there, we come to the good old lathe. The old Little John lathe, brought from the UK. They're also running off an auto transformer. Very nice tool. If pushed, I can do some milling if I put a vertical slide on the compound. Drawers with stuff in. I don't know whether to use the word stuff or junk. Both are applicable. And a bit of old stock to each side. And then the main workbench with shelves. Pretty well covered in things. There's an old quarter horse motor there, which is running a wire wheel. A number 2 fly press, quite useful for small operations. And a little 1-ton arbor press. Cheap harbour freight, very good value. And then the vise, which I'm not going to take the platform off. This little table thing sits in the vise most of the time. It gives me a spot to work on. And more shelves, more items, and then the drill press. It's an old import. I've actually had it 20 years, I think, something like that, if not more. And a load of drawers and bins. Heck of a lot of junk underneath. One of the more recent acquisitions was this workbench, which was a Harbour Freight kit. Dozens and dozens of nuts and bolts. Took ages to put together, but has actually proved very useful. It's got quite nice sliding drawers, although I had to pack the runners out when I fitted them. And a bottom shelf with various items parked. Keeps stuff fairly accessible and gives me a lot of extra space. And on the top, and this, I haven't tried this yet. I got it recently. Hang on, let's see if it'll switch on. It's actually a chainsaw sharpener, and it was on a coupon offer, not very expensive. Hoping to use that at some point. A little mini grinder for small jobs, and a utility. They call it a utility sharpener. It's actually a very slow revolutions wheel, and it's got a water bath at the bottom, so very, very useful for fine honing with water cooling. Just bits and pieces hung up there. And this machine, sanding belt and disc at the end. This thing's weird. That actually started up quite well. A lot of the time it starts very slow and eventually picks up, but it hasn't blown any fuses, so that's proved quite useful. Starting to use that for drill sharpening down this end. And then the most recent acquisition, let's just come back a bit. Oh. Most recent acquisition is this 20-ton press. Down the bottom there is the 20-ton jack that it came with, but I've modified since and got an air hydraulic jack, which is absolutely superb. It makes a heck of a difference. Tends to gallop through air, but saves an awful lot of hand cranking. Haven't used that a lot yet, but it's very nice to have on hand. And then just coming around the back, well, over here is it's junk, and the old tractor. This compressor was actually out of action for ages and ages. It was blowing fuses, and I hadn't got round to checking it out. I had a local guy take a look, and as suspected, one of the capacitors had blown, and that's now back in use. Bit ugly because I've added bits on here. There's a water collector and a needle valve controlled oiler for air tools, but that is much better for supplying the air hydraulic jack and general use. And then this is all old stuff. It's been here for ages. All these old cabinets full of goodness knows what, nuts, bolts, washers, you name it. And then I was using this little compressor, which was very adequate for most jobs, but the tank is way too small for major work. So there we are. That's just a quick walk around of what we've got at the moment. Suits pretty well. There's always something else I want, but most of all I've got to spend time doing some sorting out. Way too much junk. But flat surface-itis invariably wins the day, so things get parked where they shouldn't be. But overall, it's enough to enable a lot of jobs to be done, and it's a lot better than it used to be. Thanks for watching.